Hey, what's going on everyone, and welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at how to create this animated subscribe button inside of Premiere without any extra plugins or downloads at all. And while we're talking about the subscribe button, if you could hit the subscribe button down below, it'd really help me out, and hopefully it'll help you out too, because there's plenty more tutorials like this coming. So without any further ado, let's jump into Premiere to figure out how to do it. So inside of Premiere, we've got our project file already set up. I've just created mine as a 1920 by 1080. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up into our little toolbar with all these little icons here. And we're going to hover, if you can't find it, come up into Windows and come down to Tools, and it'll bring up these little icons. And what we're going to do is we're going to hover over the pen tool, and we're just going to left mouse click and just hold, and it'll bring up this little menu here with these three icons: the pen tool, which is just standard, but then we've got rectangular and ellipse tool. So we're just going to hover over rectangle tool, let go, and we've brought up our rectangle tool. And then just anywhere on the composition, we're just going to create a rectangle about that size and let go. So mine's already come up as red, but if yours comes up with any other color, what we can do is we can come up into our graphics here and over to our essential graphics. If it doesn't pop up, come over to Windows again and come down to essential graphics, and it'll bring up this window here. Make sure you're on the edit tab and make sure this is selected on your timeline, and it'll bring up all these little icons. I'm going to use these to get the look we're after. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to align it right in the center of our frame. And to do that, all we need to do is hit these two little icons here. So this vertically centers it, and then this horizontally centers it. So now it's perfectly in the middle. Now, if mine's come up as red by default, but if yours doesn't, all you need to do is hit fill and then just pick the color you want. But because we're making a subscribe button, we'll go with the YouTube red. So now it's time to start animating. So we'll just zoom in on timeline so we can make it a little bit easier. And with it selected, we want to come up to our effects controls. If you can't find it again, Windows, effects control. And you'll see here shape, and that's the little shape we just made here. So we're going to click this little arrow right next to it just to bring down all these options. Now in this animation, we're going to want it to start from the left and come out to the right. So to do that, we need to come down to scale, and we're just going to click this little icon and untick uniform scale. And what that does is it just gives us the ability to control the scale of our vertical and horizontal separately. So as you can see, vertical goes up and down, horizontal left to right. So what we want to do is we want to just look at our horizontal, because it's coming out from left to right. That's all we're going to need to worry about. We don't need to worry about vertical. But as you can see, if we want it left to right, at the moment, it's just coming straight from the center. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to have to shift our anchor point to the left of this. If we come down to this left number and click it and hit 0, what that does, if I bring it up, you can see this little circle here. That's our anchor point. So at the moment, it's right smack bang in the middle. So that's exactly where it's coming out from. So when we change it to 0, it just puts it on the very left. So now when we change the horizontal, it's coming from the anchor point, which is on the very left. But as you can see, when we change the anchor point, it's moved our whole shape off center. So we just need to come back up into our essential graphics and just hit the horizontal again, just to line it straight back up in the middle. Now we can start animating the button. So we want to come over to our horizontal scale, hit a keyframe. So it's on 100, so that's where our end's going to be. And so if we zoom in here, you can see once we hit that little stopwatch, it created this little keyframe. We just want to grab that and drag it out a bit. And now we want to change the 100 right down to 0. And as we do that, as you can see, it automatically creates a new keyframe. Now if we play it through, we have our rectangle shape coming out from the left to the right. But at the moment, it's quite a boring animation, just because when we start it to when it ends, it's all the same speed. So it starts very abruptly and ends very abruptly. So it's just a bit boring. So we want to change that to just make it a bit more exciting. So how we can do that is we can come to this second keyframe, right mouse click, and we can come down to ease in. If we click that, and then we come over to our first keyframe, do the same thing, right mouse click, but this time we go to ease out. And what that does is you'll see this is our speed of our transition. So we go back to where it was before. It's just dead straight. So it's the same speed every time. So if we change it again to ease in, it starts off at that fast speed, then it slowly comes out. So it eases in. And then this, if we ease out, so it starts off slow, builds up. So this is our fastest point here, and then it slows down. So we play that again. So it's helped it a little bit, but it's still a bit of a boring transition. So what we can do is we can zoom in a bit, hit our second keyframe, and you see this little line with a circle on this end. If we grab that little circle and we just drag it to the left, you can see it sort of changes the speed. So it starts off and builds quicker, and it eases out over a lot longer of a period. So we play it through, you can see it just eases out much more, which is what we want. So now that we've got that animation, what we can do to really help create the visual interest that we're looking for is we can have under this red the same sort of animation, but a white layer coming out. So what we can do for that is we can come up and we'll just close this to make it a bit neater. Hit Control C on your keyboard and then hit Control V just to copy and paste it. So at the moment you won't see any difference because it's the exact same effect. So on our bottom layer, we just want to select it and we'll just rename it just to make it a bit easier. We'll rename this one white and we'll rename this one red and hit OK. So we hit our white layer and change it to white. You can see nothing happens, but if we hit this little eyeball and we deselect it, you can see the white layer comes up, and if we play it through, it's just the exact same effect we just made, just this time it's white. So now if we hit both the little arrows to bring the keyframes of our red and our white, we can change these keyframes to make it a bit more interesting. And to do that, we can just grab this first keyframe of the red layer and we can just bring that forward a little bit. So at the moment, what happens now, as you can see, the white layer, we just play it through slowly. You can see the white layer starts to come out first, then followed by the red. And because our keyframes on both the white and red layer end at the same point, the red layer actually starts off behind, but then it catches up and finishes at the same point. So play it through again. It's got that nice visual interest. And we can just set the frames a little bit more if we want to just have that white a little bit longer, and then the red speeds up and catches up a lot more quickly. Cool, so we've got the actual subscribe box down now. Now we need to do the actual subscribe text. So what we can do is we can close the red and white layers and we can come up to our text tool, and we've got two options. We can either create it on a separate layer. So we do this now. When we hit the text tool, you can see it comes up with another graphic. So we type in, it creates it on a separate layer to our shape. Or if we do the same thing, but with our layer selected and we hit it, you can see it comes up with our text layer and properties on the same graphic element as the red and white. So we'll do that for now, just to keep everything together and in this one layer, just to make it a bit more neat and tidy. So once we hit the text, hit anywhere on the screen, and we can type in subscribe. So now we can come back over to our essential graphics, make sure our subscribe's highlighted, and we just want to hit our line vertical and horizontally again so it works perfectly in the center. We click away. Right now it's perfectly in the center. So we hit our graphic element again, hit subscribe. We can come down and change some of these effects. So at the moment, you can see it's got a slight shadow. So it depends whether you want to just keep it nice and clean, or you can add a shadow just to give it that sort of depth. So we'll leave it off for now. So we might just make it just a little bit smaller. And then once we make it smaller, we'll just center align it again. So at the moment, if we play it through, it comes over the top. So what I was thinking for this animation is we have the box come out and then the subscribe come from the bottom and come upwards. So to do that, we can come over to our effects controls, come over to where it says our text, and we just hit the little arrow to bring down all the properties we need. So now we'll come down to the transform and we'll just come over to our position and just hit the little stopwatch next to the position to create a keyframe. So this is going to be our end position. So we'll just zoom in to make it a bit clearer. And you can see these two little dots here are keyframes for our red and white layer. So we bring down our red. This is where the box stops animating. So we'll just line it up. So we might, at the moment, we might start the animation where the box ends. So we'll just bring this forward a bit more. And we just want to grab our position and just bring it down just below the box. So now we play it through, box comes out, then that's going to come up. And again, we'll just bring it in a bit quicker. And we will change the animation to ease in again by right mouse clicking, coming down and choosing ease in. And the same thing will change to ease out. So now we'll play it through and we've got our animation. And we might just, as you can see, it comes out, but then it seems, because it's still coming up, it's got that little bit of delay. So we will highlight both of our clips and just move it inwards slightly. So that's not too bad. And we can always adjust later if we want. So now we need to get rid of this subscribe and have it come up. So how we can do that is we can scroll up right to the top and you'll see you've got this 4-point polygon mask. So we want to hit that. And then you can see it creates this box in our window. So if we just hover over it, you can see the hand pops up and we just want to grab that and just drag it right up. We might just zoom in. So if you come down to where it says fit and we'll just zoom into 200%, maybe go right into 400%. And we just want to line up our mask. Line up our mask so the solid line there hits right on the edge of our red of our box. And you can see these dotted lines is just the feather. So we want to come over to our mask properties and turn that right down to 0. So there's no feathering. Now if we hit the 400% and go back out, and now we play it through, you can see we have our subscribe graphic. Now one last thing we can do, we'll just grab this and just move it up a layer. Then we'll come over into our project window, right mouse click, come down to new item, color matte, hit OK. I'm just going to make it a gray, and we're not going to use this for the end animation. I'm just going to put this in so we can see what's happening. So we hit our subscribe again, and we come down and select the red up in Essential Graphics. We can come down to Shadow, hit that on, and it just creates sort of a bit of depth from the actual background layer. So if you imagine this is your video layer, it just creates that depth we're looking for. So you can choose to do that or not. I'll leave it on because I kind of like that, having that depth. And we can have a look at whether we want the shadow of the text on again. So that looks pretty cool. So we play it through. There we have our subscribe animation. All right, so that'll about do it for today's tutorial. If you did get something out of it, please hit the subscribe button below. There's plenty more tutorials like this coming very soon. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.